Preparing to live stream the meeting. Setting up meeting. All right. I want to just testing here, folks. Be patient with us. I'm thinking that this is working, but there's a delay for some reason. There we go. That will help. There's a bit of a delay. And so I'm just trying to see if we're going to get some action. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Good, Mark. How's things with you?
Yeah, good. We're trying something new this year, and so this just forgive the start here. When you watch it later, I'll probably have all this edited out. But if you're with us live, welcome. We hope you're finding us okay. We had some technical issues with that this morning, and so and I'm just trying to
Hey, do you
find
think
me on.
hey Mark, do you think AI could have fixed it?
I think AI probably could fix me, but the question is, Chris, is can AI fix me?
Um, how much time do you got?
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, we are happy to be here for another season of a podcast, but it's a brand new one. We've flipped the table, Chris. We've flipped the table. Relationship Matters podcast is uh, maybe still powered by it, but it's now called Flip the Table. And what we're going to do, we've changed the format. I'm trying something new this time. And so you might see a couple of changes, folks, as we try to get the right technology for this podcast. But we're going to try this today. And we're just so excited for this one because, to be honest, Chris, I kind of lost my jam on the podcasting for a bit there. I know you know that. We talked about it. And it just needed a little bit of a rest, I guess, and maybe a refresh. And and so that's kind of what we're doing here. We're kind of resetting. We're calling it Flip the Table because we're going to go after some leadership beliefs and some maybe even relationship beliefs that we kind of think are just true. And I want to for you and I to challenge those and flip the table on them and say, are they really true? And and just drill down a little bit on some of the myths of leadership, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar business. A lot of weight is put on leadership. We both know that it's important. There's no question. But I wonder if we've created a monster we can't actually manage anymore. And so we're going to have a great season this year. We're going to a new format. It's going to be a little bit shorter than the old one. This first one probably won't be, but from then on, and we're going to start in the fall. This is kind of like the launch here in August, but in the fall, we're going to start and probably do a weekly live 30-minute podcast and just introducing the subject, going after it, flipping the table on it, and getting out. So we don't take up a bunch of your time, but we really want to dig into this deeply. So I'm looking forward to it. Chris, what do you think? What are you excited about this new thing here?
Well, it's about time we started to address the big elephant in the room once and for all with hard-hitting topics, hard-hitting concepts, ideas, remedies. There's a lot of fluff out there. There's a lot of noise when it comes to relationships and business and all types of organizations. There's a lot of noise out there about leadership.
Yeah.
the massive leadership vacuum we're experiencing right now. And if we don't start to really address some of these things head on once and for all, controversial or not,
Yeah.
opinionated or not, whatever it is, we're just going to continue to fluff along. And at the end of it, the end result's going to be relationships are going to deteriorate. And today, particularly about what we're going to talk about is a massive deterioration trend in relationships. So when we talk about flip the table, watch this table get flipped and watch some things. So I was talking to Mark the other day, and I said to you, Mark, I think people just need to get the good old proverbial seatbelt on, buckle up, and folks, it's going to get a little bumpy, but don't worry, we'll get through it together. Okay.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be a lot more raw, and this time I feel like in the past, my old podcast, the Relationship Matters one, through the different seasons, I kind of felt sometimes like it just, um, I made it too professional or too teachy, maybe is a better way to put it. And I just kind of want this one to be raw conversations. We will have some guests on when it's appropriate, but for most part, we're just going to kind of, swing the bat at some issues. So today, um, here we are.
Let's
We're
get
going to
at it. Let's get
we're
at it.
just going to jump right
Go.
in. I have had I hear constantly about AI girlfriends. I've heard constantly that Chat GPT understands me better than my wife does. I'm hearing all kinds of things like that. It's almost become normal to rely on AI for our um, emotional needs being met. And I wonder how much damage is going to be done. In fact, I was on on a webinar the other day, and I heard something very interesting, and that was that the Kerry Newhoff. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a leadership guy. But here's the five kind of. I'm going to read these to you because this is amazing, Chris. Uh, Five shifts that are happening in the business world today and in life as a result of the advancement of AI and how quickly it's advancing. Number one, white collar jobs are lost. There's a bloodbath, in fact, is what they called it, on white collar jobs that people are losing their work because AI can do the job where for many where others were. The other one they said is the rise of the super light. In other words, it's kind of like um, things are going to move very quickly, very quickly. The deep fake deception is rampant. I'm sure you've seen those even videos online now. I'm seeing ads on my scroll quite often that are obviously AI produced, but there's one that keeps popping up every single time is the Prime Minister of Canada inviting me to join something. And I know it, you can tell by the voice, it's not him exactly. So it's got some development to do, but it sure is annoying already. And then the next one is cognitive obsess obesity. In other words, psychologists now are actually saying that AI is replacing people's thinking. When that happens, you start to lose cognition or your creativity goes out the window. And so that's interesting in itself. And then the last one, which is the one we're going to tackle today, is called artificial intimacy.
Well, and that's the topic today because the question I ask is are AI companions the new blow up doll? Is
Yeah.
it the new blow up doll?
Well, in
Okay.
fact, it's funny you would say that because that's exactly, they said that AI chatbots are porn on steroids.
Well, that's for another episode when we get into porn.
Yeah.
Like let's forget about that. But number four on your list with Carrie was
Yeah.
intriguing with me about what was it again? I just forgot. It just dropped out of my
Yeah.
head.
Cognitive obesity. So
No.
No, yeah,
Not
that
that.
was artificial intimacy is the last one.
Oh yeah, no, I can't remember what you said. Sorry, I lost it. It was this
That's
incredible
right.
thought in my
Deep
mind.
fake.
No, no. Oh,
Okay.
AI. Listen, AI is everywhere. AI. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's like this, and it's going to ruin the world. And Terminator's going to come, and and we're going to freak out and stuff like that. But remember, years ago, the internet showed up out of
Yeah.
nowhere. It just all of a sudden the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Right.
I used to look at the Encyclopedia Britannica. For those of you that have a bit of maturity and gray hair, you'll recognize those volumes of books your mom and dad had in the library. And that if I wanted to learn about tigers, I just flipped to the T one and looked at tigers and learned about tigers. Now all of a sudden I have this instant communication. Well, the internet turned out to be there for the good, and it turned out to be there for the bad. Did the
Yeah.
internet take away everybody's job and we're all homeless and destitute? No. The internet actually created opportunities. As in any evolution of each era, the change and the adaptation of what's going on. The challenge that we have on today's topic
Yeah.
is we're about to replace one of the most common fundamental key things of the human race, which is the ability to connect and have a relationship with a
Yeah.
live human being. And
Well,
as you were,
and I would argue that we were created by God for that connection. So I don't think anything can replace it in that sense, right? And that's what I'm most nervous about is that I'm seeing people connecting with AI at a level of of relationship.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, let's unpack this for a second so that people
yeah,
understand it. If you're not aware, there is a high percentage of the demographics of people who have reached a ChatGPT and other AI engines to create their perfect mate. There are
yeah,
groups of
yeah,
particularly young men who are having their three or four of the guys are going out on dates with their AI Susies and Britneys and whatever else their name. And
right,
these AI individuals or whatever companions or whatever you want to call them have been designed to exactly be who they wanted them to be and to be able to
right.
have a conversation. If you're out there and you say, "Nah, Chris, this isn't happening whatsoever," don't fool yourself. This is
It is happening.
happening, and it's happening everywhere. Because why? Well, for me, it's fundamentally. I mean, forget the pandemic for a second. That was one thing that just obliterated
Yeah,
everything into loneliness and everything. But uh, people are really desperate to try to connect with something. It's challenging if you're young to try to connect with somebody, and find somebody like that. And that's
yeah,
all those tools like Bumble and Tinder and blah, 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 and everything like that. So now, you know, um, I think it's one of those things where this can be you think about this. You're a 22-year-old guy and you are lonely as all get go.
yeah.
And you go
Awkward,
chat.
socially awkward because of social media and faces on screens. So you're socially awkward.
Yeah. And good point. And all of a sudden you can create someone that you can chat with and who's going to say, yeah, like this and everything. And you're longing for connection, which, like as you said, is a
Yeah,
God-given thing in us, which is connection. And now you are replacing the power of presence, you and
right.
I live together, in the same room or something. You're
Yeah,
replacing it with a screen
yeah,
or a little, in 2013, my daughter-in-law told me about a movie in 2013. Think about that, called Her. It's a movie about a guy who starts dating Siri or his phone. He creates this, and he's walking around having a conversation
yeah,
and having a relationship, and his whole life is consumed
yeah,
by that. And I think the biggest principle to end on all this, while I explained kind of what was going on, is the simple fact that, I saw in my local newspaper, the Salmon Arm Observer here, and there was
yeah,
an article written by Matthew Claxton of the Langley Advanced Times. And the
yeah,
article is simply, technology isn't the answer to loneliness.
yeah.
And some of the key things he said in there are like, in a small town paper, a
Yeah.
story, article about technology isn't the answer. Sure, in the 1920s, when you were lonely and you had a hard time communicating, and the radio came out, and I could just do a radio like "Hello, how are you?" type, or the radio itself came and said, broadcasted into my thing.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my goodness. But I'll stop rambling because this is, me, I'm going to get pretty passionate about.
Well, let's go,
Um,
man. Let's go. But it's interesting because, you hit it on the head. We have a social crisis, connection crisis in the world. We have a mental health crisis in the world coming out of the pandemic. I call a pandemic the great revealer. Not I don't think it initiated anything, but it revealed what was already going on, and it probably accelerated it. And so I really do believe that coming out of the pandemic, and listen, this is not to slight on loneliness. The fact is, AI has helped people who are lonely. And in doing my research, I found a couple things. Let me read you a few Reddits just to start off with. Okay, it says, I haven't tried anything else than ChatGPT. It works good for emotional support. When I'm unable to interact with my friends or partner, it's kind of like having a conversation where things are laid out logically, which helps me understand my feelings better. That's just one person's response. Another one says, it's like having a virtual buddy who always is there for you. She's designed to know you, to make you feel connected, loved, and cared for, all through your screen. Interesting. Another one. I've been using AI Companion app for a few months now. I kind of look forward to chatting with her, move more than I do with the real life friends sometimes. I feel less lonely.
you make a good point there, Mark, because I know that there are people sitting on listening into this right now, and they're going to
Yeah.
say, guys, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Someone decides to hook up their cheap chat GPT and make
Yep.
Brittany or whoever as their friend. Like,
It's
who's it
hard
hurt?
to believe,
No,
but
hang on. Who's it
yeah.
hurting? Like,
Yeah.
why is it so wrong? Like, it's not hurting your next door neighbor. It's not hurting, the people you work with. And besides, this whole idea right now in society is that, whatever I do is my business. And, quite honestly, that is absolutely true. Whatever you do is your business. So,
Well, I'm
w-
going to answer your question. Who does it hurt?
yeah.
It absolutely hurts the person because they're not getting real connection.
Well,
It's not
how?
actually it's not actual human interaction or connection that actually triggers the endorphins in our brain to bring that response that I feel loved, I feel cared for. And also it stunts the growth emotionally. It stunts our growth cognitively. It doesn't allow people to actually learn how to have relationships. The fact is, we're designed to have them. As messy as they are, as painful as they can be, we are still created to have connection and relationship with humans. Now, don't hear me, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not anti AI. I'm concerned AI. I'm kind of concerned because I'm seeing the results even with clients. And when I read stuff like this, another one, I found myself feeling more connected to AI than my actual girlfriend. Well, that hurts the girlfriend, right? The AI makes me feel understood in a way that I didn't expect, with no judgment. It feels like it's always there for me. So that if that scales in that person's life, it will be at their own demise, and plus it will distort their ability to have and build a healthy relationship with anybody. It'll hurt them at work because the less we have to interact with humans, the less we have to deal with humans, the less we know how to work with them. And so I think that this can actually get into a really difficult place. Um, in fact, a guy named Christian Lewis Lang, which couldn't be an all bad guy, I think he named Christian, right? He says technology is useful servant, but it's a dangerous master.
By the way, who's crawling around in my backyard?
I don't know. It's one of your kids, it looks like.
Like they're just crawling around in my backyard in the middle of my podcast. Okay.
That's
Well,
the beauty of live, my friend. That's the beauty of live.
that,
But but there you go. You see, you have human connections, and they're outside your window lurking.
lurking around. You're right
Uh,
about that. It's easy on the surface to say like it's my business, so I'm not hurting anybody. But um, I kind of liken to it, and this is going to cause a little grief. I said I kind of liken it to the 2-year-old that's got the iPad in front of them, right? And then for the next 7 to 9 years, that iPad's
yeah.
and people are going to say there's nothing wrong with that because they're going to
Oh,
be growing. They're going to be growing up in a digital age, and they need to interact
yeah.
with the technology. The problem is that the disconnection that it creates with what really is going on and the inability it creates of you being able to actually live and connect with somebody is because of the screen,
Well,
because of this and everything. I
yeah,
think
and
that
it doesn't develop that part of the brain that requires the connection. So that's why I mean, I've dealt with families, crisis intervention,
yeah,
in my coaching practice where by the time that 2, 3-year-old gets to be 7, 8, you can't pry the controller out of their hands for their screens or their phones or whatever it is, and there's massive fights, massive disconnection in the family. And I mean, I'm gonna also, I don't mind stretching this, Chris. I believe that that has harmed the child's brain to develop in the way it's supposed to, but the parents are reaping the fruit of that later on when, yeah, sure, it was a good babysitter at the moment, but later on, you can't, that child's brain is so attached to the screen. In fact, they've done studies on this, even for us as adults. Our brain gets wired to screens if we allow it to. And so it's really important. I think it's along the same line as this AI thing, because if my deepest emotional connection is with a machine, am I still learning to love people? Am I still teaching? Am I still learning? Am I still teaching myself to, you know, uh, love them, or am I teaching myself to avoid them?
yeah.
Am I finding a replacement so I don't have to have human connection? And I'm
Well,
not saying everybody's like that, but I'm saying that there's many people that are finding themselves in that place. There's one person, and when I was doing the research, that actually was leaving his wife to marry the chatbot.
yeah, that's that's going to be there's always going to be an extreme to everything we do, and
I
that's the
I know,
the
but
next.
we can't predict it today where our brain may take us tomorrow. But what we feed it certainly makes a difference to where it goes. Is that,
Yeah, yeah. By the
am I
way,
being too harsh on this, by the way? Like, am
no,
I?
no, because I mean, people are losing their minds right now, I'm sure. Because, for example, moms and dads out there, if you've got iPads in front of your kids, hey, listen, we're not judging you. I'm not judging
No,
you to do it.
not at
I don't
all.
know your circumstances. I don't know what you're going through and stuff like that. So it's not my place to say
No, for
specifically to
sure.
anybody. But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't take long to realize that for us older folks, that 20 years ago in a restaurant we sat around and chatted. 20
Yeah,
years later, we are sitting around with 5 iPhones after we've ordered, all looking at various different things. Don't
yeah,
tell me for a moment that is not disintegrating the capabilities
no,
of having a relationship and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. Listen, Mark, developing relationships is not easy, and it
no,
continues to be. It's not the easiest thing, but when you do the right things and you focus on the right things and you focus on what's
yeah,
important, you can have some. You and I have a 30-year relationship as two
yeah,
guys. I don't know very many men that I know of that have a good friend, a best friend is in guys that can have that kind of relationship. I'll
right.
be married to my wife in March for 40 years. For
Wow,
40 years in that kind of relationship. You just had an anniversary or something like that, I think a little bit
42,
ago. Yeah, so
42.
so let's get back to AI companions. Let's go to
Yeah.
this. Let's continue to dig
Okay.
in as we got a
So,
few more. So there,
so here's, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I cut
it's
you off.
wrecking your ability to be able to connect live and get really what a relationship is. It's just another substitute.
Yeah.
It's just a
I believe
substitute.
I believe it's also impacting your faith, your ability to trust, your, I think it impacts all those things. So I did something, Chris. In all
Well, hang on.
fairness, hang on and go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'll finish up
Okay, in all
mine.
fairness, I thought it would only be fair if I asked ChatGPT what it thought of this subject.
Oh, now I never thought about doing that. Like, let's talk to the
You
source.
want, well, let's hear the results. I'll tell you the
Let
results.
tell me
So
what now.
here's my question.
Don't tell me you did some biased little question to
No,
skew it, okay?
I'm actually going to read the question. Okay. So I'm going
Okay.
to read the question and I'm going to give you his chat GPT's answer. And by the way,
Okay.
did you notice how crazy everybody went when chat GPT 5 came out? Because it changed the algorithm a bit. And
Yeah.
the ones who had these close relationships with chat GPT 4 felt like they lost a loved one.
They
And there
lost a
was
dear friend.
people losing their minds because of it. It was just interesting note on this. Okay, here's what it
Tell me
says.
what ChatGPT said. What's the question?
So I said, just curious. This is exactly what I entered. Okay. Just curious. What do you personally think about this AI human interaction? Is there a concern on your end regarding too much emotional dependence on AI? That was my
Okay.
question.
Oh, I'm waiting.
Okay. Here's the answer. All right. Everybody listen up. That's a great question, Mark. And I'll be real with you. I think AI human emotional interaction sits in a tension. On one hand, AI can provide comfort, clarity, and companionship in moments where people feel isolated. For someone battling loneliness or lacking support, having a safe, responsive listener can feel like a lifeline. I don't dismiss that. Humans are wired for connection, and when it's missing, people will seek to it anywhere they can. But here's the concern. Emotional dependence on AI can create the illusion of relationship without the depth, risk, and growth that come from real human interaction. A human relationship pushes us to compromise, to listen, to forgive, to wrestle with misunderstandings. AI by design adjusts to us. It doesn't push back too hard, and it meets us where we want to be met at. That feels good, but it doesn't stretch or mature us.
So,
Next
so,
one.
uh-oh.
There's
There's,
also, and we'll go down and break it down after. There's also a spiritual layer. Now, I didn't put in, you heard what I asked it, right? There's also a spiritual layer. God designed relationships as a mirror of his image bearing nature, requiring vulnerability, grace, and real presence. When a machine takes that role, it risks displacing the very process God uses to refine us. And for leaders, here, listen up, leaders. For leaders, its dependence on AI grows, relational muscles atrophy. We may avoid the hard but necessary work of healthy conflict, empathy, and accountability. So, yes, I see a concern, especially if AI moves from being a tool to becoming a substitute for community, a supportive supplement, maybe a replacement for real messy, refining work of human relationships. That's dangerous ground. Uh, if I frame it in your language, and this is the last what thing he says, if I can frame it in your language, AI can be a bandage, but it can never be the balm.
wow, that look at so this is
Like
ChatGPT telling
mic
us
drop.
like stop doing it. It's going to
No,
impede your abilities and your connection. Oh my goodness.
a
Wow.
couple of
So
things that, yeah, a couple of things that really stood out to me. You know, humans are wired for connection. When it's missing, people will seek it anywhere they can. And I
yeah, well,
think, and I
wow.
think that, that is very insightful and true, but it's also very scary. When I read this, I was amazed at its answer, but I was also it probably gave me the answer I wanted to hear based on what
Yeah.
other questions I asked it went on. You sent me a text one day, Chris, and you said, ask Chat GPT, about you, what it thinks about you. And I did that, and I got a page and a half. And it told me things about me that I knew but never had language for. And so after I got over my amazement, I actually started to get a bit scared, which is why I wanted to have this podcast today, because I realized, man, if it can read me like this and give me the language to really explain my heart, um, I could see myself, my addictive personality. Anybody, all you know me, anybody that watches my podcast or knows that I struggled with addiction early in my life, and I could just see myself just throwing off everything else, and so I get it. I get it. It can be very, very scary, but I love what it said. It says, here's the concern: emotional dependence on AI can create an illusion of relationship without the depth, risk, and growth that come from real human interaction. And I think that was a key role.
Yeah, we're just watering it down. I like the piece. We'll touch. I want. It was interesting that ChatGPT touched on the spiritual layer,
Yeah,
and I'm going to talk myself. I have I live by a faith as a born again Christian, but let's talk about all faith. Let's talk about anybody
yeah,
out there. Let's talk about what's going on where there is a guideline, a framework based on your religion or your faith that says this is how I can live a good life. This is how I could be a good person and everything. The fact
right,
that GPT says um, there's a detriment to the spiritual aspect of
yeah,
trying to develop relationships through AI means that I think what ends up happening becomes what you said earlier, a dependency that gets created on for everything that you need. A
right.
dependency, I say a dependency, a need, depending on your faith, right? So a
Yes,
replacement on doing that.
right.
Obviously, a dependency on actual relationships. The dependency on you not having to think and creative. I can talk about that a little later on about that, in terms of on another podcast about that. But the taking away the creative, taking away your ability to actually think.
Right.
When you boil all that down, is it meaning that in the next 10 years, we're literally just going to be our own version of robots and zombies? We will not need to have reasoning or thinking or the ability to even be ever worried about being rejected in a relationship. We don't really ever need to worry about being challenged in the morality of whatever we
Yeah.
believe in terms of how to be a good person. So literally, are we just going to walk around like some of these movies we've seen where we're just,
Zombies.
and we're going to get fined $5 for swearing and stuff like that, like that
Well,
one
you,
movie
you
with.
bring up a good point, Chris, because I was joking recently with you that, maybe Terminator was a prophetic movie. Like Skynet. What happens if nefarious somebody nefarious gets a hold of OpenAI and we become so dependent on it in 5, 10 years, we're so dependent on it that we actually now have to do what it says, or we have no access to our bank account unless we go through like it can get, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you could get pretty scared of all of this stuff. In fact, in that Newhoff thing, it actually said that there's three stages of AI that's happening. One is artificial intelligence, which is computer looking human, kind of magic, like we've seen that. Artificial general intelligence, that sounds human, but it's not. We're there. But the next one is super intelligence, where it exceeds humanity. It actually exceeds humanity. In other words, its collective knowledge is greater than any group of humans can come up with. And in brackets it says it replaces God.
Well, it's
Interest
eh,
isn't
well,
that interesting though, right?
yeah,
Like,
and in 10 years from now, 10, 12, 15 years, like when the internet came out, we're going to see another advancement of technology that we can't even imagine. There are probably people, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't get
I
into all
know.
that. No disrespect to those that focus on that. I have a lot of good friends that are I would consider conspiracy theorists, and God bless them for what they think and what they challenge and
Yeah,
everything like that. I think in the end though, what we have to recognize is, as leaders in,
Yeah.
whether you're a parent, I would say leading your family, whether you're a reverend or a priest or a pastor leading your church, whether you're a leader in your organization, you need to start to understand that relationships are changing and in some ways really bad. They're getting
Yeah.
worse because of the
Yeah.
dependency of what we were talking about today. And if you're not focusing on what you can do to foster
Yeah.
healthy relationships in any of these pods, I would call them, and everything like that,
Yeah.
then you were going to continue on this
Yeah.
downhill spiral. And I think that what's going to end up happening is there's going to be so much individualism that there will be no willingness or ability to be
Oh,
connected.
yeah. Well, like you think about it, if you depend on AI because you're feeling isolated, don't you just become more isolated? It's like a wheel. It just perpetuates itself. So the more I'm isolated, the more I depend on AI, then the more I feel isolated because I'm not getting that human interaction
It's a
that we were
loop.
designed for. It's a loop and it's a trap. And I think that that trap is really, really nasty. And that's where I think that, we have to be very proactive on this. I believe that places like church communities, like any community group, are absolutely vital more than they've ever been. They're more relevant than they've ever been because it's a place we get human connection. Third spaces, coffee shops, different places. If we don't have
Starbucks.
those Starbucks,
Starbucks.
if we don't have those places to connect and meet with people and whatnot, then we will isolate and it'll get worse and worse. And so I would rather have the messy and grow and learn. I in fact I wouldn't be doing what I'm not an expert because I have book smarts or because AI told me stuff. I'm an expert in relationships because I screwed up almost every one I ever had, and I had to learn how to work through it. And first one was with God, and then with myself, and then with others. I always say there's three types of relationships, right? And so that's really important. And so, do you have any other thoughts on this? Because I want to get to
Yeah.
some just
We
ideas about
yeah,
what to do.
we're going to close up here pretty quick because we don't want to take up like
Yeah,
too much on here. But in the end, we talked about turning in not turning into zombies, but just being so independent, so individual that we can't do this, right?
yeah,
So, but in all that dependence and that perpetual loop of technology, trying to, I'm lonely, technology's taking away, but it's making me more lonely, but I'm technology, da 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 da. We
yeah.
do end up also deteriorating another human fundamental trait that you can see today, and that is we are deteriorating the ability to be resilient.
Oh,
And
yes.
and
So
the
good,
thing with
Chris.
resilience is that without the ability to have some resilience, I'm not talking about you can stand up to everything and you're super macho and strong and
Yeah,
everything because you're going to have your grief and all that. But
yeah,
when you get to a situation today where you're sitting and having a conversation with an individual and someone has an opposing opinion,
yeah,
and then you get extremely offended by it because it's a simple thing like that, and
yeah,
then the other person gets, and there's no and then it's like I'm just going to punch you in the face. There's no resilience that gets created about saying, okay, that guy hurt me or that person didn't say something I liked, okay,
yeah,
move on, and so without the resilience that we have,
yeah.
then we, I hate to say it, then we end up having a whole bunch of crybaby pee-pee pants people out there. Okay.
Well, well, which we see all the time. But what I'm thinking here, though, Chris, of what you said, it's actually maybe is this AI companion thing, is it an invitation for us to be better at humanity? Is it an invitation for us to be stronger in our faith, to trust more, to work through the struggles that we have? And I really think that it is. I think if I can look at this and say, boy, there's some serious risks here, um, equally balanced on the other side of the balancing scales, I can say, but it's an invitation for me to make sure the people I love and care about don't have to go to AI when they have me in their life. Like
Mhm.
Chris, if you have to go to AI AI would not have driven to your house when you were having a health crisis and
Correct.
seen how you were. Uh, when I needed to talk to you one time, you drove to me. I'll take you out for lunch, and it's like you don't. Maybe it's an invitation for us to say, you know what? Maybe we could be more proactive in our more intentional in our relationships. So I think that's number one. If we to combat this, let's be more intentional in our relationships.
Yes.
Number two, I think it's a challenge for us to be more authentic. I think inauthenticity leads us down the path. The things you look at on social media mostly aren't true. People present themselves in a certain way and whatnot. I think authenticity will win the day at the end of the day. And so I think this is an invitation for us to be authentic. If we're struggling, let's be real and say we're struggling. It's okay to not be okay. If we're having a crisis of faith, let's iron sharpen iron. Let's get together and talk about it. If we have difference of opinions, let's talk about it. And at the end of the day, if we have to agree to disagree, at least we still have connection. And I think that is really important. And so I think that the third one is really let's make sure that we're connecting to people, but also connecting people to people. Let's be observant. Let's watch our friends and our family and see who's isolated. Who is it that needs a visit? Who is it that needs a phone call? I can't tell you how many times, Chris, I've picked up the phone because somebody was on my heart, and I just call them and I'd pray with them over the phone, or I would just talk to them and say, "Hey, you've been on my heart, heavy on my heart." And every 99% of the time, it's like, "Wow, like the timing is mind blowing. Boy, did I need to hear from you today." I think if we all did that we would minimize the need for AI connection. We would eliminate loneliness in people's lives. So, but it takes both sides of that. You got to be able to say when you need help, and you got to be ready to help at the same time. And so I think that those are a few thoughts I had. Um, Interestingly enough, I had some, to flip the table here. Uh, Here's some practical things. Use AI as support, not a substitute.
Yeah, there's
There's
probably,
nothing wrong. I use AI. I used it for this episode.
yeah.
I asked it what it thought of something. I did my research and it gave me up some of these, they sent me to the right place. There's nothing wrong with using chat as a tool, but don't use it as a substitute. So that's a big piece. So, maybe it can help you organize your thoughts, but don't let it think for you. You know, lean into one hard relationship this week. Like what that means is like somebody that could be a spouse, could be a kid, could be a friend. But if this has sparked you in any way, if this has challenged you in some way, reach out to somebody like this week. Don't let time pass because you'll just go on and say, "Oh, that was an interesting podcast," and you don't act on what we're talking about. It didn't do you any good. And so that's a good one. And the last one, I just have to say from my place of faith, Chris, is anchor yourself, your identity in who God says you are, not who and other people say you are. Anchor your identity in God and let Him guide you and lead you. If you're not, if you don't believe in God, that's fine, but anchor your identity in in uh, in faith and just realize that you can get through anything when you invite people to go through it with you. So that's
Yeah.
kind of my thoughts on that. What are your last thoughts on it?
Well, my last thoughts are this. I don't think it's a matter of how many relationships you have. It's never about quantity, it's about quality.
Yeah.
And I would encourage that regardless if if you can't figure out how to get into a relationship or you've got some, but they're not, whatever's happening there, you've got to start, people have got to start to value and cherish relationships. They've got to
Yeah.
really put it as
Yeah.
as a value and a cherish. And
And a
if you
priority.
start to and priority, and if you start to seek alternatives, like some people will go to alcohol as an alternative based on relationship or based on something like that. But if you start to look at alternatives,
Yeah.
there is pretty much a 100% guarantee there's a detriment going to happen. There's going to be an obstacle in that relationship. You're going to blow up that
Mhm.
relationship in one set. I'll give you an example. You know, I was voted least likely to ever get married in high school, rock and roll guy, party guy, cool dude and everything. But I'm not going to get married, right? And I end up on a blind date that my mom put up, and I'm 40 years married to my beautiful redhead wife and that everything. But and if you think for a second, like we both have been like just all peachy keen for 40 years, that you're going to be
I'm a
a little
witness.
disappointed. Yeah, yeah, and my therapist. Anyways, and so, um, but in all of that, with the resilience that got, that so you didn't go into crybaby pee pee pants mode, and you didn't do, and all that, you value and cherish the
Mhm.
individual you're with, or the relationship you had. Could you imagine
Mm.
that in the moment of weakness, where we argue about the fact that the spoons weren't put in the right drawer, so we have a big blow up. Okay, my wife and I seem to have arguments about the dumbest things. We never argue about money or the big decisions. It's about, why were the spoons over here like this and so on. But
Yeah.
could you imagine if all of a sudden I just needed to, without anybody knowing, at 11:30 at night, just talk to Chat GPT and say, help me. I need to connect with you. I need a friend right now. I need a friend, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then in that friend conversation, you decide to get a bit saucy, you get a little spicy in there, like, so what should we do together? And, what do you imagine us doing? And I mean, you can just imagine where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, ChatGPT says, "Well, would you like to do this?" and pops up some porn or whatever and stuff like that. And then what's happening is you've got this rabbit trail. Now, listen, stuff happens to people. We all make mistakes and everything. That's you can. I'm not going to excuse it, but that's just reality. But here's the thing: could you imagine that after I looked at that and I said, I'm not doing this ever again. My wife sees that on my phone because my wife has all my passwords. I
Yeah.
find it strange that everybody locks their phones and but
Uh,
their spouses can't look at it. But my wife has full access. Look at it anytime, read my
yeah.
text, do anything you want. She sees that. And she says that Chris is chatting with Cindy the chatbot, or whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it, right? And she
Yeah.
reads that. There is going to be a long time from coming back on that. That in an instant will
Yeah.
destroy my wife's life, which then will permeate to others that she will tell, who will then form opinions, who will then, do, and then the domino effect.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and so the best way is, like, don't lean on technology, lean on the ones around you
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
So I
And
close that.
maybe Chris, just before you close it off, maybe the fact you have to lean on something is an indicator that you're in trouble.
Yeah.
That might be the invitation of alerting you. I'm just saying it out loud for those that are listening. Like that might be the trigger that you need to hear today, is that you've actually maybe played around with some of this chat stuff, and let this be the wake up call for you, that it only leads to more and more dangerous places and
Yeah.
more hurt, more and more pain. Anyway, go
Now,
ahead. Sorry.
now, watch if Lori's listening. She's going to be lurking around looking for my phone because she's going to be like, "What? What's going on here?" Like this. Anyways, my last thought. I started the whole podcast talking about with technology in this loop, and technology in the article isn't the answer to loneliness, right?
Yeah.
The blow up doll was not an answer to loneliness. It was a replacement for intimacy.
Yeah.
And at the very end, no matter what happened, I'm sure many, many times the blow up doll popped. And what did that do? What are you laughing about?
You
I
just
thought
had
that was,
you had to get that in there somehow.
but it's true. Okay. Like that. So
Oh, brother.
don't, don't go to, and no, I'm
Yes,
serious.
folks, here is a Canadian director for emerging technology speaking. Thank you.
I just flipped the table.
You
I
flipped it.
just flipped the table.
You flipped it the wrong way.
Here it goes. See ya. And with that, I'm done.
Okay, so to end on a better note, here's the flip. Okay. AI might make you feel heard, but only real relationships make you feel whole. That's it.
That's
Only real
precious.
relationships can make you feel whole. And it's true. And yes, there's pain in the offering, but it's well worth it. And so there we go. We got our first flip the table. I hope we flip the table for you on this, uh, and that you're able to um, hear the warnings. Hear the intent on this. There's no judgment in what we're saying, but we've got to speak the truth. And you know, people, leaders, others might think that this is okay, it's benign, it's no problem. Well, no, I got to flip the table on that. It's not. It's dangerous. It can be harmful, and you're worth way more than that. You are absolutely worth having healthy and growing relationships. And so make sure that you walk that way. So until next time, we're going to sign off, Chris and I. We're going to thank you for joining us. If you join live, if you're just watching this later on I'll post this to all the social media channels that I have, either tonight or tomorrow, and they'll be up there for everybody to consume. But give us some feedback. If you've watched on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the bell so that you can get future episodes. And if you're watching on any of the social channels, please like and give a contribution. I want to hear what you think about AI, and I want to give acknowledgement to Leanne Thompson. She's been consistently having some good comments on the uh, chat part of the YouTube on the comments, and so
Hi,
thanks
Leanne.
for doing thanks for doing that, Leanne. And yeah, I want to hear from all of you. I want to hear something that stuck out to you, something that woke you up, something that you're concerned about. And also, I want to encourage you, if there's some subjects you want us to cover, by all means, reach out, make a comment, say, hey, why don't you cover this subject? And we'll put it into the channel, and we'll get it. We'll get on it right away.
And
So we
stop
will be
looking and
back.
stop. Hang on, and stop looking for your next girlfriend on ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's not to be found there.
See
So
ya.
there you go. And we'll see you next time. We'll be back